Welcome to the England Rugby Pod. Thanks for downloading episode 144. As England prepare to take on Ireland at HQ, we discuss the team, Haskell turning MMA fighter, and World Rugby's revision of the laws. You're listening to the England Rugby Pod, the rugby podcast that believes England will win the World Cup in 2019. Hey guys, welcome back. A few days off, and we are back to discuss the next big warm-up game for England against Ireland at HQ on Saturday. And you'll never guess what? We're joined by Dan.
Oh yeah, good to be back. Although, do you know what? I listened to the pod the other day. Billy did a really good job, in fairness.
He did.
He's natural, isn't he? He's natural. He talks well. He comes across with good points. He's
Dan,
less
we
of a
get it
than I am.
We get it. You've got a bit of a soft spot for him. You've never spoken to him. You've never met him. It's a bit weird, but it is what it is.
Well,
it's 2019.
I feel like one thing I should probably point out, the whole East Grinstead Eastbourne thing, I haven't played for East Grinstead for years. I mean, I played for them when they were good. I haven't played for ages. They're my club association now. My club loyalty is 100% the mighty Chess Valley. But no, Billy, I thought that it was a good podcast. I enjoyed it.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. It was a longish one, but we had to introduce Billy, and we're going to be doing it again this weekend because you're sadly unavailable again, aren't you?
I know, mate. I don't know. Like, they're making me, with work and stuff, they're making me actually go in and do work and shit. It's so weird. It's so annoying.
I mean, that's the benefits of the old Monday to Friday. Take your weekends off. But hey, hopefully putting in all this graft now just is going to stand you in good stead for when the actual tournament begins, and they'll give you a bit more of a break. But it's great to have Billy as backup. And the way things are going, who knows? He was going to start putting pressure on you, mate. Have you got any messages for him?
No, nothing specifically. I actually, to be fair, thought he did a fairly good job. I mean, that doesn't change the fact that Eastbourne Rugby Club is still shit. But as a pod, as a guest for his first pod, I thought he was brilliant. Like, I listened to one we did the other day because I noticed it had a load of downloads, and I listened to myself, and I'm fucking annoying. I annoyed myself.
I didn't want to say anything, mate.
Yeah, I was just like, oh my God, who is that prick? Oh, that's me. Cool. Shut up, dickhead.
Smooth. Let's stop putting ourselves down. Well, I'm not putting myself down, but and let's focus on this. It's been an interesting week. So much has kind of just turned up in the last sort of 24, 48 hours. Obviously, a big part of why we're doing today's episode is to talk about the team, and we're going to come on to that. But there's a whole load of other stuff that we're going to talk about. But before we go through any of that, we've had some feedback, a couple of reviews, a few interesting points. So I thought I'd go through those. So Andrew Moore, who is, I hope I'm saying that right, he is, I think, the guy who's going to school us on front row etiquette. Awesome. and just generally anything to do with the front row so that we don't make the ridiculous mistake of getting our loose and our tight heads the wrong way round. But he says, great semi-live pod with guest host Billy. I thought the Wales game was exactly what Eddie wanted to have. It's like a pre-season game. You want to play some of your players, but not all of them, as you show your hand to the opposition of what your game plans are. In regards to Joe Marler playing both sides of the scrum, I think it's the worst decision Eddie has made. Joe spent all of his professional career specialising at loose head. The technique of tight head is completely different. When you think we have Argentina and France in our pool and their scrums are pretty ferocious, I feel you need your props to be playing in the strongest positions. In regards to starting props, I would actually start Dan Cole ahead of Carl Sinclair, as Dan is a solid scrummager and line-out operator. Also, Sinclair would have a massive impact with 25 minutes left. Anyway, in Eddie we trust. Andy.
Nice, good point. So I quite like that.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a nice change to have someone making a valid, educated point about the front row who actually knows what they're talking about. So great to be able to share that. And yeah, we're not going to make the mistake of even attempting to debate what you're saying. In Andy, we trust.
Yeah, I think we need to leave that stuff there. It's an interesting point. And yeah, thanks.
We've also had
let's not take on someone better than us at this.
We've also had a message from Tom Berry. Now, we've spoken about Tom before. This is not the Tom Berry that we knew at uni, by the way. This is a different Tom Berry. And he says, Just wondering, Mike Brown was called back into the Treviso training camp squad, which suggests that at the time Eddie felt he needed a specialist fullback. However, he was sent home for whatever reason and not included in the squad for the first Wales match and the final 31. The main change in the squad personnel between Treviso and this selection, World Cup Bolton McConaughey. So the main change in the squad personnel between Treviso and this selection was World Cup Bolton McConaughey. There's been a lot of reference to his positional flexibility, but most importantly, his aerial ability. Add to this his extensive experience of playing in tournaments abroad while on the Sevens circuit, and I wonder whether he's set to play a bigger role in the World Cup than expected. Eddie's been desperate to get him game time, making late calls in both Wales matches, and has kept him in the squad at the expense of a second tight head, which is a massive call. What do you boys think? Reckon he can force his way into fullback for the big games at the World Cup? ?
So one of the things I'd say when it's saying about like positional and his aerial ability and his experience abroad, I mean, Mike Brown has all of that, probably more so. But it's an interesting one. Like not taking a 9 front row. I don't think he's going to be our starting fullback. I think it will be Daly or Watson. But he could play. I think it's a good point. He could actually be more integral than we're thinking, along with Piers Francis, actually, weirdly enough. I do wonder whether Eddie has a plan for them, but has not yet been revealed. I feel like there's something still to come around.
Well, the whole McConaughey thing is, we're all desperate to see what the fuss is about, right? I mean, most of us haven't really paid that much attention to him throughout the season. And he's been called up to England. It's come as a surprise to a lot of fans. We want to know what's this about. And Eddie has a habit of making these calls and getting it spot on. But obviously the injuries have just meant we haven't been able to see it yet. Billy had the theory that he's there to soak up any injury damage, to ensure Manu stays fit. Possibly. But I think we want to see him, right? We want to see what this is all about. We want to see why he's been selected. And we're all kind of crossing our fingers that it's like, wow, it's another Willie Hines type selection. And we're all going, how's this guy not been involved until now?
So Willie Hines has been awesome and has been, I think, so far the find of the squad. The find is maybe the wrong word, but I think he's been the star of the squad, of the standout.
I think the find is probably correct, because I think most of the others, we know a bit about. Willie Hines has come along, and we've all, and pretty much everyone to a man has been like, why? What about Dan Robson? What about Spencer? It's kind of like everyone sort of questioned it, and then he had he had his first cap against Wales, and everyone went, why is he not starting?
Yeah.
So I think to call him our find of the World Cup so far is probably fair comment.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, it's rare that you get that from me.
Very rare,
but,
very rare.
Credit where it's due.
Credit where it's due. But back to McConaughey. Cover. Yeah, to an extent, I don't think he's not yet, definitely not yet, as he worked his way into a starting spot. And actually, if there's talk about, so people say when Billy was saying about Manu, I think that's assuming that he potentially is a centre cover. I think an international centre is actually
no. So it wasn't cover for Manu. It was a slight tongue-in-cheek, witch doctory type thing. Billy was suggesting that maybe he, because McConaughey keeps getting injured, it's like he's secretly stealing all the injuries away from Manu in order to keep other people safe.
I missed that. It was Lad Bants.
It was Bants, exactly. Lad Bants.
Sorry, my bad. Right. Okay. In which case, it takes away my point. Yeah, we need to see him. We need to see.
I think that's the bottom line here, isn't it? It's difficult to answer the question because we haven't seen him. So yeah, he could be spot on. He might be an absolute bolter. He might be the best fullback we've seen since Robbo. But we're not going to know until we see what he can actually do with ball in hand in the white shirt. And that's not going to happen this weekend. And I presume that's because he's still injured. Because I would have thought otherwise Eddie would have found a way to involve him. So I'm presuming he's still dealing with his injury. We will obviously confirm that.
I think it has to be, doesn't it? He'd at least be on the bench. I think it must be.
You would think, given how hard Eddie's tried to get him out there, that if he was fit, he'd be getting a shot this weekend. So maybe we'll see him against Italy. hopefully we'll see him against Italy, because it'll be a bit odd to have someone that we've never seen, who's never played for England before, who's going to the World Cup having not even played in a single warm-up game.
Eddie has a lot of faith in him, and Eddie's a hell of a scout.
Anyway, we're not quite done with the reviews, which is always nice. So we've also had a review from it's not from an Aussie, or at least I don't think it is, but from Australia, from Dog or Be Dogged. 5 stars. He says, light-hearted and on point. Morning, boys. I've only been listening to you for about a month now as I get into World Cup mode, but love it so far. I'm living in Vietnam, so not Australia at all, but heading to Japan for the World Cup. I'll be going to the game in Sapporo, can't say it, against Tonga. Even though we're playing the 2 weakest teams in the group, do you feel that England will feel their full-strength team out in those games or not?
Do you know what? I have no idea. Normally I would say no, but with Eddie, I just have no idea. Because part of me thinks you've got to save them, because see what France did to Scotland. I mean, France are a genuine, real threat. I mean, Argentina ran the All Blacks close. I mean, that's 2 tough games. I think
Scotland have made 14 changes for their next game against France, because they're playing them again this weekend, aren't they?
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what happens this time. But even so, France showed what they can be capable of. I mean, the Scotland team wasn't Mickey Mouse.
No, I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't seen it. It annoyed me too much that it's on a sports channel that I don't even know what it is. I feel like when you've got Amazon, Netflix, Sky, terrestrial, there shouldn't be another channel that you need to get to watch sport.
I'm getting a bit fed up of it.
Those should cover
BT,
it.
Sky, like say Amazon, Netflix, Now TV, and then suddenly, new channel. Fuck off.
Yeah. So a little bit annoying. Didn't get to watch that game. I'm sure that there have been plenty of highlights. I just haven't had a look at them yet. But scoreline would suggest that it's something to be concerned about. But I think England have been. Well, actually, no. We'll come on to that, because our next review is from. Why did I go and close that particular page? Not very helpful. It's from LarsGirl24569883. Very enjoyable podcast. 4 stars, not 5. Hopefully we can do something to change that. She says, I really like this podcast. As others have said, I enjoy hearing views of other fans just like me. Be good to get the female perspective from time to time. My only slight criticism is I wish they were as forthright at pointing out the England team's weaknesses and areas to improve as much as they point out the positives. I enjoy hearing from 2 confident England fans, but after the defeat to Wales this last weekend, it felt too biased to England, and I'd have appreciated more of a realistic overview of performance. Firstly, thank you for reviewing us and for the 4 stars and for reaching out. Secondly, I think, look, we could absolutely do all of that, and we could point out England's weaknesses, and we could try and be a much more kind of professional unit, but that kind of defeats the purpose of what we're trying to do, doesn't it, Dan?
It's not really our DNA. It's a completely fair point, and actually, I think it's actually a really good review. It's a completely fair point, but that's not us. We're both stubborn, rose-tinted English, just like cheerleaders.
It's our USP. We're unflinchingly positive about England. When things are dire, we will find a way to turn it on its head. And don't get me wrong, I am absolutely not trying to drive any of you to any other podcasts, but I think see us as a nice side dish to have with your more kind of balanced podcasts. There's plenty out there.
Cauliflower cheese,
exactly, or some piri fries or something.
Nice.
Well, why not? Bit of coleslaw. It's not important what we are, Dan. What's important is, we are the light-hearted, super positive, rose-tinted version. That everyone has these feelings. We're kind of presenting them for you all to listen to, and for some of you, obviously, typically the Welsh supporters who listen, and there are some of you out there. You see it as an excuse to have a laugh at our expense, and from time to time, that's exactly what you get. I predicted an England win last weekend by 16 points.
They have electricity in Wales? Shit, it's changed. Sorry, mate, carry on.
I don't know how to follow that, mate. Anyway, the point is, we completely get what you're saying, and it's a fair point. We are biased, but we hold our hands up, and say that that is kind of what we're here to do. And I just don't think I can bring myself to draw on England's shortfalls. But also, though, that said, I genuinely don't think that last weekend's result is something that we need to worry about. I don't think it needs us to say that it's a real concern and point out flaws. Yeah, there are areas to work on, but I think that's what the game was right off the bat, right? That's what we went out to do, was to try and identify areas for improvement. And for me, most importantly, that wasn't our first team. And when we brought people on in the second half, in the last 20 minutes, there was a clear improvement in the way that England were playing. And I have absolutely no doubt that had we played our first team in that game against that Welsh side, we would have won.
I completely agree with that. Yeah, but sorry, was it Lars?
Lars girl, and then some numbers.
So, Lars, if you're listening, what I'd say is I think that asking us to be less biased, I'm afraid a bit of a swing and a miss. But what point she did make, which I think is excellent, is actually we'd love more female input from that point of view. So please, Lars, please do keep getting in touch. Let us know your thoughts, and any other women out there listening, because it is massively male dominated, which is just the nature of our listener group. But it's really interesting to get sort of views from all different types. So I think that's a really good point. But I'm afraid with regards to trying to even out the bias, it's just not going to happen.
I was going to say, we've got to just be honest and say, sorry, that's just not us. But we will try to, maybe we can try and be more positive about the opposition. No, I didn't think so. It is what it is.
Disgusted with you right now.
It is what it is. I think looking at that Wales game, England played a second string side against another Welsh first team, or there or thereabouts. It came down to a 7-point margin. Wales scored a try that, whilst it was legal, it was like it would be legal to score a goal in football after the opposition has intentionally kicked the ball off the pitch. You can do it, but you don't. You kick the ball back to the keeper as a show of kind of sportsmanship. We had Anthony Watson in the process of leaving the pitch after being given a yellow card, which some argue was unreasonable. Whether it was or not, I'm not sure it was necessarily. I think he probably did put his hand out in a way. I don't think he intentionally tried to knock the ball on, but I think he positioned his hands so that there was the possibility that he might prevent the pass being made whilst making the tackle. Nevertheless, he got a yellow card. He was on his way off, so he was only halfway. He wasn't even halfway off the pitch yet. Willie Hines had gone off for an HIA. We were waiting for Ben Youngs to come back on. And I think it's right that in those situations, the game needs to be stopped for a minute whilst those sorts of things get sorted out, particularly the HIA situation, because the HIA, it's a forced, you're required to leave the pitch. You're not leaving because you're being penalised. Potentially you're leaving because someone's made an illegal hit on you. But the fact is that, if you have to leave the pitch for 10 minutes to go and have an HIA, the opposition shouldn't be able to take advantage of that. And that's what happened. And incidentally, they've now changed, World Rugby's now changed the laws. So that's now no longer a possibility. So the try that Wales beat England by wouldn't have been allowed if it happened today.
It's actually an interesting one, because to me, I thought, well played Wales, like they did that and I'm glad it happened. I think that's a really good lesson to learn now. Some of the England boys, anyway you look at it, I know it's been changed and things slightly different, but anyway you look at it, some of them were just so unaware, which you can't have in international rugby. They knew about as much their surroundings as Justin Sangster did when he shit himself at Mouse and Polly's wedding, but I think it's a good lesson we learned, and I quite like the fact that we learned that lesson, because I don't think that will ever happen again.
Agreed. I mean, this is what Billy and I said at the time. It's not like it's England really need to work on this. It's this thing happened. it's never going to happen again, because now it's happened to you. You're aware. You're like, okay, we can't take anything for granted. We can't assume fair play anymore. But it's one of those lessons. It's like you say, it is a lesson learned, but it's one that you learn instantly. You don't have to go and train for it or practice for it. It's just, okay, from now on, we need to be more alert in those situations. It was frustrating because twice England were called back from quick penalties. That I think was slightly unreasonable to do, but these things happen. But for me, the bottom line is England played a kind of makeshift side, and they only lost by 7 points, and those 7 points came from a questionable tactic from Wales. And if that's the best that the number one team in the world can do at home, where their record is by far the strongest, then I think that you have to say, from an England perspective, we're not in a bad place at all.
Yeah.
So I think for the first time in a long time, I've come away from a loss going, I'm okay with it. Like, yeah, it would have been great to have won, but I'm okay with it because I don't feel like it's had a particularly negative impact on our World Cup preparation. I think it's been good for our World Cup preparation. I think it's going to make us a better team.
I think if we lost to Ireland, though, this weekend, I think there might start be a few nags in the head, especially with the team we're putting out.
Absolutely. I mean, the difference is this time around. Okay, there's a few positional things that are we're still trying things out. But you look at this side, and if you look at it from are they first team, second team? It's a very strong side that we're putting out this weekend, as Ireland are doing on the flip side. So yeah, it'll be really interesting this weekend. And you're right, we can't hide behind a result this weekend unless we're trying out things which we might be. But the bottom line is it's about what happens in a few weeks' time, isn't it? So we shall see. But before we get onto the team, still a few more things. James Haskell.
It's an interesting one. So for those who don't know, James Haskell has now signed, is it with Bellator, as a MMA fighter?
He has. His first fight will be next year.
I
think he'd be quite good at it.
I'm sure he will. He's an athlete.
It's not going to be... Well, yeah, but you say it's not going to be like Freddie Flintoff becoming a boxer, which was just a joke.
I think James Haskell's a lot harder than he gets credit for. And put it this way, I 100% would not want to go in the ring with him. But
no, well, if you consider
I don't think he will be top level.
But if you consider MMA is not, it's not all about flying kicks, and it's a lot of it is the grunt work on the floor, isn't it? And it's the sort of thing that someone like a James Haskell is going to know exactly how to do that. I think he could be quite useful.
I don't think he's going to ever get to a world level, if I'm honest. But I hope he proves me wrong. But I think that's quite cool. And do you know what? I have massive respect for his energy and his. He quits rugby. He could easily take time out. I'm sure he's got plenty in the back, but he just straight away throws himself into the next thing, and I think that's a massive.
I mean, one question I have got: if he's in good enough shape to become an MMA fighter,
have you seen the pictures of him?
Why is he retired from rugby?
Well, I mean, he was saying so. That's another thing that I wondered about a bit when I saw it, and I guess it's probably slightly different. But he's basically retired from rugby because he just can't keep playing with his foot or whatever. But I can't remember exactly what it was. But he was saying that he was just in pain all the time. But I feel like that would go away training as an MMA fighter, fighting as an MMA fighter. If I'm an MMA fighter going against him, the first thing I'm doing is the old foot stamp.
Boom! So I'll get the old pinky toe.
We've gone kindergarten playground rules.
Dan, who with this in mind then, who else would you like to see? Who would you like to see in the ring with him from the rugby world?
I think Sonny Bill could. He was a good boxer. I think Sonny Bill could probably throw it. Who would I like to see in the ring with Haskell?
Not necessarily with Haskell. That's just because of the news. But who else would make an interesting MMA convert?
Who would? So I reckon
Manu.
Manu would be hard, but again, Vic, I think you probably want somebody. Liam Williams, apparently that guy is pretty damn hard.
Really?
Hard as nails. Apparently he can handle himself like really well. I think he's one of the hardest in the Welsh teams, allegedly. Do you know who else was meant to be a very accomplished fighter? Was Brian O'Driscoll.
Really?
I'm pretty sure Brian O'Driscoll was accomplished at everything, but so I'd be interested. I reckon Owen Farrell would just go caveman.
Drop some shoulders.
George Ford would be hiding in the corner. No, George Ford's quite a brave guy, but I don't think he probably has the stature to be a.
No. I think we probably need to look away, generally speaking, away from the forwards. I think Big Joe probably hold his own. Manu just no one will be able to put him down. Big Joe Cokanasiga.
He would be a handful, wouldn't he?
I think 120 kilos is always going to be a handful. But yeah, looking away from the back line, I think you got to be looking at some of the big boys. What about Joe Marler?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Joe Marler would be quite tough.
Joe Marler looks like an MMA fighter.
Yeah, he does, and Joe Marler's huge and strong. Because I messaged you the other day, didn't? Yeah, I think Genji doesn't mind a row. I messaged you the other day, didn't I? Saying about with Joe Marler, I was like, how much is he benching? Because there was I think it was one of the like shows where they're doing about following the England rugby team. But Joe Marler's got a bit of power behind him.
A little bit. He's not a small man. I think we need to remember, lots of chat about coming out of international retirement, and it is international retirement he came out of. He's still very much, was still very much.
No. He's retired from.
Quins.
Marler. Sorry.
Marler,
I thought you were on about Haskell.
No.
Yeah. Marler.
So he's still obviously in good shape because he's still playing professional rugby, but he's just focusing on Quins, and he didn't want the international burden that it put on his family. But World Cup comes a beckoning, and you'd be mad not to. His wife was probably like, do you know what, this whole you being at home all the time, it seemed like a good idea at the time, but actually, look, if they'll have you back, can you go to Japan, please?
Sounds like my missus. It's Joe Marler, I'm glad he's back. Just quickly on the James Haskell thing, one last. Apparently, Andy Powell. Do you remember Andy Powell, the Welsh back row who stole the golf cart? Apparently, he's challenged him to a fight. I don't think they see eye to eye on certain things.
Awesome.
I'll be quite interested.
Proper grudge match.
I would back Haskell to destroy him. Andy Powell was a tough guy, but I would back Haskell. I
think the thing with Haskell is that he's so professional in what he does. You look at his rugby, despite what you think of him personally and his whole social media kind of profile, and what he's like is the Archbishop of Banterbury and all of that. When it comes to the hard graft, there aren't many as professional as him. And I think he's going to do the same thing here. He's just, he's already, let's be honest, fitness is not something that you worry about when it comes to Haskell. He's built a brand around it.
Yeah, completely.
He's going to be in great shape.
Guru.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to be in great shape. He's going to train hard. He's going to do the right kind of training with the right kind of people. It's one of the reasons why I think I wouldn't underestimate his ability to make the kind of the crossover. We'll wait and see whether he's any good. But yeah, I think someone who just thinks of themselves as a bit of a hard man challenging him because they don't like him from the rugby field, unless they're also professionally trying to develop a career in it, I think I would back Haskell 100%.
Haskell would destroy him.
The other slightly interesting bit of news this week is Ben Teo has signed a short-term temporary contract with Toulon as World Cup cover, because obviously they're losing players like everybody is for the World Cup. But as a result, he's ruled himself out of a potential call-up should England need him. What do we think of this?
I think, and when we would briefly spoke about this before, I actually think he got told he's going to have no part in it. I think he might have been ruled out completely anyway. But if not, I was listening to actually James Haskell's podcast, House Rugby, and Chris Robshaw was there. And he was saying, like, I now know I'm never going to put on an England top. And they were like, well, what if injuries and things? And as Robshaw said, you can't live like that. You've got to be realistic with yourself. And realistically, Teo, yes, he could get called up. But I think with what went on and the way he was dropped, and I don't know the full story by the fight, but I think clearly Eddie's probably made it clear he doesn't have, this is just my fault, doesn't have intention of calling him up. So Bentio's got to, he's out of contract.
Yeah. I mean, so I think that there's two sides to this, isn't there? On the one hand, these guys have short careers, injuries, and he's certainly, not someone who doesn't understand the impact of injuries. He's had a few of them. I think 33 games in 3 years or something is what he's played for Worcester.
That's a good investment.
And so, if someone wants to pay him a ludicrous amount of money to go and spend 3 months playing, I 100% get it. And if he's confident that he's not going to get the call up, and I suppose even if there is the chance of a call up, if he feels let down by the England setup, and he's following the money and he's considering his future, like fair enough. But on the other hand, it's like it's a World Cup, and if you've been told stay, as Eddie keeps saying, there's lots of guys who've been let down, who've been told, make sure you stay match fit and match ready because you never know. And he's gone, I don't care, I'm going to do this anyway. I don't know. It's a difficult one. I know 99.9% of the time, I am 100% with the players who follow the money because careers are short and you've got to make sure that you're supporting your families. They come first. There's just something about this, and maybe it's simply that there's a bit of controversy around why he was dropped that just makes me feel a little bit like, is there more to it than meets the eye?
Yeah, possibly. But I mean, don't forget Toulon as well. I suspect there's a fair bit of Johnny Cashington involved. So
you would think so. Well, look,
especially short term. Yeah, sorry.
I was going to say, should we focus on the main event for today's episode and start looking at this team, because it's the first one that we've seen that really kind of looks like it's something that could do some damage during the World Cup.
So I'll start with you. So I'll just quickly start. So obviously Marla George Singh, yep, cool. Malco's on the bench, great. Atoje Cruz, fair enough. Curry Underhill, Billy, I love him. We'll come back to that. This is where, so Young's to start. Yeah, I think he needs to start. Ford, Farrell, Tuilagi. What are we thinking about that sense of partnership? It's trying something new, but bearing in mind the sort of game plan was sort of almost having the Manu Tuilagi, the big crash. Is that too much of a different game plan? Is that going to cause any problems?
I think.
Do we want the Ford Farrell again?
I think what's going on here, we know that the Ford Farrell is a thing. It typically comes in the last 20 under Eddie Jones. I think what we're doing here is he's saying, look, when you have Farrell at 10, Tuilagi at 12, and then either Slade or JJ at 13, you've got the two playmakers, more so in Slade, either side of the big crash ball man. Right now, he's saying Slade's obviously injured, he's unavailable, and we've seen JJ a couple of times, and he's looked great. Put that in your pipe or whatever. Let's put that to one side. We know what's going on there, and he's on the bench, so he still has a chance to come on and do the usual. And I suspect that's the sort of thing we're likely to see. I think he's saying, well, look, if that's not the option, then you've got to get your playmakers at 10-12 instead of at 12, instead of 10-13.
Yeah. So
how do you do that? Well, I guess the options are you go Farrell 10, Francis 12. I don't really know. I think that's probably where we're going here. There is an element of still trying out combinations because it's about being certain about all the different varieties that are available for the World Cup. These are still, as much as we as the fans want to see this being treated as a genuine test match where winning is the be all and end all. The bottom line is that's not the case. It is still very much a testing ground. There are still a few weeks to go. We're still trying to just get everything right. And he's looking at another combination. It's not the first choice combination, I don't think. But it's certainly something that there's a good chance that at some stage during the World Cup we're going to see Ford at 10 with Farrell at 12.
And I actually think George Ford's playing really good rugby at the moment. So I think actually, yeah, it is. If we're going to revisit that, now's the time because they had massive success with that.
They did. I mean, it was mixed, wasn't it? There were ups and there were downs. I think the last time they started like this was the second test against South Africa in South Africa, which we obviously lost, and it obviously resulted in us losing the series. So on that basis, it didn't really work then. But the rest of the team wasn't the same. I think that last week something we kind of lacked in the first 60 minutes was. We've said it plenty of times before. George Ford is not he's not going to create the magic moments. Really, he's a solid player, and he'll do exactly what it says on the tin. But maybe last week we kind of lacked a little bit of imagination.
So that was something that worried me. The fact we didn't get a score. I think George Ford adds more sort of flair and magic moments than he's given credit for, because I think he opens up those things for other people. So he makes other people look good. I think George Ford is brilliant at that. But you're right. I do agree. But then last week, like you say, we didn't score any tries. And that is not really that's not good enough.
I think it was the first time in about 18 months, maybe longer, maybe the first time under Eddie Jones, that England haven't scored a point in the first half.
It's that was the part that did worry me. I think you do need to be getting points. It is quite important that you're scoring points throughout the game. And I do think England, with their threat, should be scoring tries. But looking at the team this week, if we didn't score a try, it would be like, what the pissing hell is going on? You've got, look at that, Tuilagi, Kotnasiga, May, Daly, those guys are absolute danger. They are proper danger men. So we need to be getting the ball to those guys, and then I think the tries will come in.
They're doing, by the looks of things, they're doing what we suspect is necessary in having Young start with Hines coming off the bench. Again, this is something I discussed with Billy last weekend. We talked about it in the Danny Care. With the Danny Care kind of set up back in the day, we were sort of saying that the trouble is that Danny Care's almost played himself into that finisher role because he brings so much energy and ups the tempo in that last 20 minutes. And we've always felt that Ben Youngs doesn't offer that. So Ben Youngs just doesn't really suit the role of a finisher. And is Willie Hines in danger of falling into that same trap of being, of being that guy that's going to be the finisher because of what he brings to the plate?
So it was interesting listening to Conor Murray chat. He said he thinks Ben Youngs is one of the most dangerous sniping scrum halves, which is interesting. I know they became mates on the line, so maybe that's picking up your mate. If you could pick, so to answer your question, I think so. I think Ben Youngs is a starter. Okay, but now with what we've seen to date, where we are today, assuming everyone had sort of the same training time in camp, who would your two scrum halves be?
I think I'd have what we've got.
I think I would go Willie Hines, Danny Care.
Why are you whispering?
Because it's a secret. I don't want to tell Eddie. Yeah. I think I'd look at that. I think I'd look to at the moment. So I think Ben Youngs has got to prove himself this game. I think Willie Hines has been amazing.
It's a big game for Ben Youngs. Like he's been world class in the past, and there was no question about his selection. And maybe this is the problem. We've seen him coming off the bench, and that's just not what he's about. He is a starter. Provides a solid platform at the beginning. Let someone come on and turn up the gas a little bit later on. So I think it's good that he's starting. I think it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. But you're right, he needs a big game, and he just needs to just quieten down anyone that's questioning his position. But that's a strong bench in the form of Willie Hines. An interesting one here, both Piers Francis and Jonathan Joseph on the bench. And I'm just wondering how that... I mean, to me, that says that Farrell and Tuilagi are coming off at some point. Or Farrell...
Possibly,
Farrell's moving to
Possibly.
10. But do you take Tuilagi off?
I don't know what I don't know what was the scenario. So I know Henry Slade's not available,
Yeah, but we've seen Francis Joseph twice. Do we need to see it again? I feel like there might have been better options. Have Watson on the bench, bring him on for Daly, move Daly to the wing, mix it up that way. Because we haven't. Daly's played at fullback every time, and that's one of the positions that I think most people, a lot of people now are saying, look, you need Daly on the pitch. But is fullback really the best place for him? Or would you be better off saying, do you know what, we need you, but you play on the wing and let's see Watson at the back because he's a little bit more secure under the high ball.
I'm still Team Daly for fullback.
But what do you think Daly offers at fullback that Watson doesn't? Because I know, we know what Watson offers at fullback
we said
Daly
before,
doesn't.
we're talking about two world-class players. It's not that we're saying... I think Watson... I think you get more out of Watson overall if you've got Daly at fullback and Watson at wing. I think you get more out of them that way around. I think Daly can actually pick a gap slightly better than Watson. I think Watson as a winger can run and attack and turn people inside out. But I think Daly, actually, my personal opinion is Daly reads the game. I think he's got a slightly bigger rugby brain. Daly also, if he kicks a ball, might still be going next week. So you have got that clearance. Defensively, I don't have an issue with either. To me, I prefer Daly at fullback and Watson on the wing.
It's an interesting one. I'm the opposite. I think I'd rather see Daly on the wing, Watson at fullback. But I do think looking at this bench, I would have had either Francis or Joseph, and I would have had another winger because I also think you want the option of Cokanasiga being either a big finisher or, switching him up for someone who's a bit lighter on their feet in order just to change things up a little bit. I think that's an option you want to keep viable. Because it becomes a bit, people cotton on. Like I just wonder whether Cokanasiga is a massive impact player.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm talking. I like the look of this team. I do like the look of this team, and I think it's close to a first team.
I think first team, Farrell starts at 10.
I think so. I think at the moment you've got Farrell at 10, Tuilagi at 12, and then at 13...
It's either Slade or JJ.
I'll probably go JJ at the moment.
On current form, but then Slade's been injured. But I agree. I think right now, on current form, Farrell at 10, and we haven't seen this yet, don't forget. Not from a start, anyway. But Farrell at 10, Tuilagi at 12, JJ at 13. That's a strong 10, 12, 13 channel. May and Cokanasiga, or May and Watson, or May and Daly, or Noel. There's so many connotations of what you could have out wide, and in fact at the back. But we just haven't seen anything else. I'd like to have seen, with all the sort of trying out of different combinations, I'd like to have seen at least once in the 2 lots of 80 minutes we've played so far, and another 80 minutes coming up, an option at the back. And there's no, to me. Who else steps in? Is there a replacement for Daly in this 23?
I'd like to see Watson give him a shout at fullback.
Who? Yeah, even if it's just to practice cover. I mean, Noel has been talked of as a potential cover. McConaughey's been talked about as potential cover, and Watson is potential cover, and none of them are involved in this game. So it's just another game where Daly's spending 80 minutes at the back.
It's also another game where Daly's learning and
positioning. 100%. But we're running out of opportunities to try things out. Do we even know who the first choice replacement is?
It's got to be Watson, right?
Well, I mean, what about someone who doesn't start? Because I think Watson starts on the wing if you're playing Daly at 15. So I'm thinking more like if you need to start someone different at fullback, who is it going to be? Well, if it's Watson.
Well, I think you'd start Watson because you've got so many class wingers with May,
so
Noel.
So why are we not seeing that at some point in these warm-up games?
Yeah, no. I agree. I'd like to see Watson start, and I think we might do against Italy.
Yeah. So I think that to me, that's one of the changes I would have made for this game. I'd have had Watson starting at 15 and probably rested Daly, or had him on the bench because he covers a few positions. I'd have had a winger instead of two centres, have one of each on the bench. Other than that, I mean, Wilson, who's going to get his first crack off the bench, hopefully for Billy. Obviously, he can go 6, but I do worry that Billy needs wrapping in cotton wool now. We've seen it. We know what he's capable of. We knew before, and if we didn't know before, we certainly know now. That, let's not take any unnecessary risks with him. He's too big, literally.
He is, in every sense of the word, he's huge. But I think we're going out to win this game, and I think we picked the team to win this game.
Okay. Courtney Laws, given that Wilson's on the bench, is Courtney Laws finally cover for the second row?
Yeah.
Because that's what we want to see, right?
Yeah. Courtney Laws is second row cover. That is exactly.
But he's been involved twice now, but at 6. And as good a player as Courtney Laws is, I just don't think that's his best position.
I don't think any of the awesome foursome are back row. They're more than capable back row covers, but I don't think they should be considered as starting back row, especially with who we've got. And can we please go on to this, because this I like. This was an Acker's original, Curry Underhill. I think that's our solution. I think Curry Underhill Vunipola is an amazing back row. Curry is just...
Well, you saw what the All Blacks did with 2 7s against Australia last weekend, so there's clearly a precedent for it.
And when you have like those people that break down, like Navidi for Wales last week, just having that specialist 7.
It was a huge part of what we lacked last week was competitiveness at the breakdown. Something Wales had and we didn't. And that's not to take anything away from the guys that were playing, but that's just not their speciality. Whereas in Curry and Underhill, that's what they do day in, day out. And when you got Billy providing so much impact with his kind of bulk from the back, this is why we called it back when we called it. It was, let's get 2 guys going in and stealing the ball every 5 seconds, because, think the pressure you could put teams under if you're turning them over every 5 minutes. And then you got Billy picking and going and just running through people. And if he can't do it, you can pop it to Manu and he can do it. And if he can't do it, pop it to Big Joe on the wing and let him have a go. And that's not even starting to talk about your Marlers, your Georges, your Sinklers. I mean, Jamie George, we got another wing cover.
Yeah.
That little break down the wing, little show and go. Beautiful. That's what we like to see.
I think he was lost. Yeah, I mean, in the back row, if you're opposition back row and you see Curry Underhill, you're like, oh, for God's sake, because those guys will tackle hard all day long, will fight for everything. If a tidal wave was coming, Curry and Underhill would try and smash it back. Those two, if they're playing, I really like this, and I really want to see how this works. And I think they're both such quality players that I think this could well be our starting back row for a World Cup when we're in the World Cup final.
I mean, it's certainly something that I would happily see. Equally, having one of Curry or Underhill starting and the other one on the bench with Wilson at 6 and playing a more traditional, out-and-out 6 at 6 and an out-and-out 7 at 7 with cover that can cover either 6 or 7, depending. And you've got options then. Wilson can move into the 8 spot. I think either way round, I'm happy. If you're looking at a World Cup final squad, I think the 4 of them, Curry, Underhill, Vunipola, Wilson, in however they're going to, which one of them's on the bench, I think that's a pretty strong back row.
Yeah, it's not bad, is it? It's not bad at all.
And obviously, in news, Mako is back from injury. I'm glad that he's starting on the bench. I think let's just ease him in. We do not want to get any more injuries because, he might just be the difference. And, Marla Mako, for a long time, it was sort of which one of them is the gun prop. I'm just going to leave it as prop.
Well played.
But, the 2 of them were kind of constantly competing. Vunipola obviously took the lead and was becoming more and more world class all the time. Obviously, injuries, bit of a setback. He's back. He's going to get his run out. That's pretty big for us as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Mako is the best
prop.
lefty righty prop in the world. I think Mako is. Like when you're saying like a gun prop, I think Mako is the one. Marla though is so good, and actually, after the South Africa tour, I had Marla slightly above
Mako.
Above Mako. At the moment, though, to me, Mako, the amount of tackles the guy makes, he makes like 25 tackles a game or something, which for a prop is ridiculous. It would have taken, I don't know, the likes of, back in the day, Frank Cotton, it would have taken him 4 seasons to make that many tackles. Not because he wasn't a good player, but just because it was a different time. Mako is just so integral, and I can't wait to see him.
You look at Carl Sinclair on the other side of the scrum. Back in the Six Nations against Wales before he was taken off because of the ref obviously taking exception. He'd made something like 20 tackles in the first half. It was something outrageous. Is Dan, in the same way that we talked about it with the scrum half, is Dan Cole a finisher?
I think he's a cover, isn't he? I think at prop, I think it probably takes on a different meaning as a finisher. I think what Dan Cole can do is come on and help steady a ship. I wonder whether the impact that Carl Sinclair can have is more valuable coming off the bench for 25 minutes. I'd have him start.
Yeah, I guess
I've got him above Coley.
I do too, and I know that traditionally you just say start your best team, but the game has evolved and it is about picking your 23 and being tactical, and sometimes that means actually having players that are better. And I guess the thing is better. How are you defining better? Like, he's certainly better as a carrier, and he's better as an impact player, and he's and that can be valuable at the beginning or at the end. So yeah, it's a difficult one.
Yeah, it's not, and I think this finisher thing, I think it's easy to get caught up in it a bit too much, because I think sometimes with finishers, you've got to bear in mind, yes, the impact he could have, but actually if a game's going against you and things, to come on as a finisher is hard. So I think you need to start your best team every time, regardless of what impact you're looking for, because you want to take control of the game.
Yeah, this is very true. I think that probably, Dan, covers most of what's been happening in the last 24, 48 hours. It's a big game, obviously, this weekend. Is there anything else that you think we want to cover, or should we let these good people
I think we need to get back to their day, get back to having some fun. We need to keep an eye on France. We need to see what they're doing this weekend. And
does that mean I have to pay for pay-per-view?
No, just wait a couple of days and YouTube.
Well, I wonder if it might be that, because was it in Scotland or was it in France last weekend?
It was in France, I believe. I apparently have been known to get this wrong before, but I'm pretty sure it was in France.
So I'm assuming, therefore, it's in Scotland this weekend.
Do you know what? I genuinely don't know. I would have thought so.
I will look into it. I will do my best to try and find out what actually happens this time round.
I will tell you, it's in Scotland.
There you go. So does that make it... I mean, it's irrelevant if it has no bearing on the channel that's showing it.
Yeah, exactly. But we need to keep an eye on that, because we need to see what France are doing. Now, are France starting to do their whole World Cup thing where they suddenly have a great World Cup?
For no reason whatsoever. I mean, to be fair to France, on paper, they've been strong for a long time, haven't they? And it's
forever,
for some reason, it doesn't translate onto the pitch. So, we'll definitely keep an eye on that. But, we've got to concentrate on what's important to us, and that is a team performance. And I have every faith in this particular team. I'll do my predictions with Billy on Saturday morning. But Dan, what are yours? What are you thinking?
Obviously England.
Of course.
I'm going for a 25-12 England.
Okay.
I think they're going to be a bit of a whitewash.
Interesting. The last time we played Ireland, it was in Dublin, and we did a job. We're back at HQ. We've got a strong side. Yeah, I think it could be a strong performance from our boys. It doesn't really matter, but as fans, we want to see a good, strong win. So I think that's a good shout. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in again. As we mentioned at the beginning, Billy will be back with us for the live game on Saturday. And we will obviously bring you all of that as it happens. But if you get the opportunity, head over to iTunes, rate us, review us, let us know what you think. We'll obviously read out your reviews. If you've got any questions for us, or you've got any fun facts, or you want to school us on something that we clearly know nothing about, you can reach us via email, englandrugbypod@gmail.com, or you can get hold of us on social media @englandrugbypod. And yeah, just kind of join in the conversation, and we will catch you guys on Saturday.
Bye, guys.